There's a small thing that many dogs do during walks. A simple behavior, so ordinary that most people never think twice about it. Your dog runs ahead, sniffs the grass, explores the world around them, looks busy, focused, completely absorbed in everything happening outside. But then, just a few seconds later, they turn around and look at you. Once, then again. Some dogs can barely go a few steps before checking to make sure you're still there. And many people think, oh, they're probably just looking around. But what if that's not the real reason? Because in the world of dogs, that behavior is rarely random. Dogs don't just walk with their legs. They're constantly checking their connection, constantly making sure that the person who matters most to them is still nearby. And perhaps every time your dog looks back at you during a walk, it's expressing something far deeper than you realize. When a dog turns around to look at you during a walk, the first thing that behavior often means is surprisingly simple. It's checking on you. That may not sound important, but for dogs, it's a very big deal. Because long before dogs lived in our homes, their ancestors survived by staying connected to the group. In the wild, knowing where important members of the pack were could mean the difference between safety and danger. That's why dogs evolved to pay attention to those they care about. So, when your dog runs ahead, then suddenly looks back, many times it's simply asking, "You're still there, right?" What's fascinating is the dogs that are most bonded to their owners often do this the most, not because they're afraid, but because, in their mind, you are part of their pack, the person they don't want to lose sight of. That's why even when a dog is excitedly exploring, part of its attention remains focused on you, almost as if an invisible thread still connects the two of you. And honestly, there's something incredibly touching about that, because among all the smells, all the sounds, and all the excitement around them, they still remember to check where you are. That tells you something important. In their world, you matter, perhaps far more than you realize. And this is where things become even more interesting, because your dog isn't only checking where you are, it's also checking how you feel. Scientists actually have a name for this. It's called social referencing. Human children do it, and dogs do it too. Imagine a child entering an unfamiliar place. Before deciding how to react, they look at their parent. If the parent seems calm, the child feels safer. If the parent looks worried, the child becomes cautious. Dogs often do something very similar. When they're exploring, they frequently check their owner's face, their body language, their reactions, almost as if they're asking, "What do you think about this? Is everything okay? Should I be concerned?" Research has shown that dogs are incredibly good at reading human emotions. They notice our tone of voice, our posture, the way we move, the tension in our bodies. Sometimes, they even notice emotional changes before other people do. That's why many dogs appear more confident when their owner is calm, and more cautious when their owner seems nervous. Because your dog isn't exploring the world alone. It's using you as a guide, a reference point, a trusted source of information. And maybe that's one reason they keep looking back. Not because they need directions, but because they trust your judgment. Because somewhere along the way, your dog learned something important. When you're nearby, the world feels safer. And that's an incredible level of trust. If your dog often looks back at you during walks, leave a 1 in the comments below, because what scientists discovered next maybe even more meaningful. Many dogs don't just trust their owners. They rely on them as a safe base. A safe base is someone who gives another individual the confidence to explore. Human children do this. They run off to play, then look back at their parents, not because they want to stop exploring, but because they want reassurance. They want to know, my safe place is still here. Dogs often do the exact same thing. Studies have found that dogs are more confident when their trusted owner is nearby. They explore more, recover from stress faster, remain calmer in unfamiliar environments, and perhaps most importantly, they keep checking back, not because they're scared, but because knowing you're there changes how safe the world feels. Think about a walk from your dog's perspective. There are strange sounds, new smells, other dogs, cars, bicycles, people they've never seen before. It's a constantly changing environment. And yet, one quick glance at you can make everything feel okay again. One familiar face, one familiar presence, one reminder that they're not alone. And perhaps that's why so many dogs keep looking back. Because in a world full of uncertainty, you have become the place where they feel safest. And sometimes, they aren't checking because they need reassurance. They're checking because they don't want to lose you. When dogs form strong emotional bonds, they become incredibly aware of the people they love. Over time, your voice, your footsteps, your routines, your presence become part of their world. That's why many dogs become sensitive when their owner disappears from view, especially in busy places, places filled with distractions, movement, noise, and unfamiliar activity. No matter how exciting the environment becomes, part of their attention remains focused on you, not because they're dependent, not because they're anxious, but because you're important. And when someone is important, the brain naturally pays attention to them. Humans do this too. We notice when someone we care about is missing. We look for them in a crowd. We check to make sure they're okay. Dogs are surprisingly similar. When they love someone, their attention follows that person. That's why many dogs run ahead, then stop, turn around, and look back, almost as if they're saying, "You're still with me, right?" And perhaps that's one of the sweetest parts of this behavior, because your dog isn't trying to control you. It's simply making sure the person it cares about is still part of the journey, still walking beside them, still sharing the moment. And there's something else worth thinking about. Many people assume loyalty is something dramatic, something obvious, something that appears only in extraordinary moments. But dogs often express loyalty in much smaller ways, ways that are easy to miss. A glance, a step closer, a decision to stay nearby, or a quick look over their shoulder during a walk. The truth is, relationships are rarely built through grand gestures. They're built through thousands of small moments repeated over time. And dogs seem to understand this naturally. That's why something as simple as looking back can carry so much meaning. Because it's not just one glance, it's hundreds of glances, thousands of reminders that say, "I still know where you are. I still care where you are." And perhaps that's what makes this behavior so special. Not the action itself, but the emotion behind it. Because when your dog is young, healthy, and happily walking beside you every day, those little glances seem ordinary, almost invisible. You barely notice them. But years later, many people find themselves remembering those moments. Not the route, not the weather, not the park, but the way their dog always looked back. The way it always made sure they were still there. And suddenly, they realized those moments were never ordinary. They were love. Quiet love. Loyal love. The kind of love that asks for nothing in return. Because every time your dog looked back, it wasn't checking the path. It was checking you, making sure the person it cared about was still part of the journey. And perhaps that's one of the most beautiful things about dogs. They don't express love through words. They don't make speeches. They show it through small actions, repeated every day. Following you, waiting for you, sleeping beside you, looking for you, and sometimes simply turning around during a walk just to make sure you're still there. So the next time your dog looks back at you during a walk, take a moment to notice, because maybe that glance isn't random at all. Maybe it's your dog quietly saying, "I still want to walk this path with you. I feel safer when you're here. I don't want to lose sight of you." And perhaps that's one of the purest forms of trust a dog can give. If your dog often looks back at you during walks, leave a 1 in the comments below. I'd love to know. And tell me, how often does your dog check on you when you're outside together? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes the smallest things dogs do carry the deepest emotions. And maybe the next time your dog turns around and looks at you, you'll understand exactly what that little glance really means.